Okay, so we will be starting any moment now. So thank you very much for joining me on Brexit and our update from here from Global E-commerce Experts. So you may notice that it's not quite the polished setup that we typically have in the office because I am self-isolating, and that is not because I am unwell. Well, I don't think I'm unwell. It is because I've come back from the Netherlands where we're looking for another new warehouse, and because we've been to the Netherlands, we have to isolate for 14 days to make sure that I don't have any dirty lurgy, shall we say. So I am at home, and that's why the setup probably isn't quite as good as what it usually is. So I do apologise about that, but I'm sure we are all well versed with that in the current state of affairs. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for giving up your very, very valuable time. I'm going to start going ahead now. So my name is Andy Hooper. I'm the CEO here at Global E-commerce Experts, and we are here today to talk to you about Brexit, what's happening, give you a little bit of an update, what you need to be doing to prepare for it, and everything else around that. Now, there is a chat function, so if you've got any questions, then please put it in the chat function. We're also on the GE Expanders Facebook group, so if you've got any questions, then feel free to put that on there. And this is part of our webinar series. So we do a webinar at 5 o'clock every Wednesday. Now, I appreciate that today is not Wednesday, but that's because last Wednesday, this was supposed to be last Wednesday. So first of all, I apologise that we had to move that. As I said, I was in the Netherlands last week, and because I was in the Netherlands, I wasn't sure about the internet signal and everything else, and I didn't want to do something where it wasn't going to work very well. So I hope you'll excuse me for that, and that's why we've moved that to today. You know, here at Global E-commerce Experts, we pride ourselves on wanting to make sure that our people we work with, our clients, successfully expand to the EU. So we're here to do as much as we possibly can to make sure that everything you do is a targeted approach about expanding into Europe, and to do that at the right times. So that's what we're really, really here to do, is to successfully expand you into the EU and to make sure that's a success. Right then, so moving on. My presentation is not working. There we go. So what are we going to talk about? So I'm going to give a very quick rundown of what is Brexit, how do we get here, what's the latest, what happens next, and what it actually means for you. So that's what we're going to be going through. So I'm just going to rattle through the first few slides because, you know, most of you know it. So what is Brexit? Brexit is the UK leaving the EU. That's it. In June 2016, the EU had a referendum, and in that referendum, 52% of voters decided they wanted to leave the EU, and that's why we are now in this situation that we are in, which is incredibly crazy. So that's what Brexit is. So how do we get here? So as I said, we had a referendum in June 2016. The UK population said they wanted to leave Europe, and since then we've been going backwards and forwards. There was a whole load of stop, start. But eventually what happened was on the 31st of January this year, we officially left the EU. So what that means is that we've left the EU. However, we're in what we call a transition period. So we've got a transition period where we haven't quite left the EU. So in other words, we've got 11 months to get our stuff together and get our stuff sorted before we leave. Now, most of you will think that that would be a tall order for the average government in an average world. Now, I think most of you will probably agree that this year has been anything other than normal. So there's been a few things in the way that I'm sure you've all not been able to avoid. So, you know, it's been a relatively challenging year, and the government, I guess, are finding that even more difficult. And I think that's, you know, that sort of leads us to where are we now? You know, where is the government with Brexit? What is happening? Well, they sort of said that by July is when they needed to finalise what they call an agreement, a withdrawal agreement. Now, what happened is if we rewind to the 31st of January this year, what we'd done is we had agreed to leave the EU with a deal. So here was a deal, yet we had to agree trade terms. Now, what that basically means is we'd agreed certain parts, but what it means is what we hadn't agreed was how we were going to trade with each other. So the biggest concern for everyone was that we would leave without a deal, and we would end up going back to World Trade Organization rights, therefore meaning we've got to have customs and everything else going between us and Europe. Well, we had a deal and everyone thought they mitigated against that. Well, the reality is it looks like we haven't, because someone's done a bodge job somewhere along the line. And that means that it isn't quite how it should be. Now, I think COVID has obviously had a massive issue with this and a massive implication on that, because, you know, quite rightly, you know, the resources have had to be diverted in various places. As it stands at the moment, the EU and the UK don't seem to have an agreement in place. The things they seem to be arguing about is fishing. You know, the UK doesn't want Europe to have any access to our waters. We want to have free movement of goods. In any organisation, in any negotiation, everyone's going to have to compromise somewhere. And no one really wants to compromise from what I understand. Now, this is an ever-changing environment, and you know, tomorrow we could have a deal for all I know. However, we've sort of put this off till now because it gets to a point where you have to make a business decision for your business in order to avert or avoid any issues. And I think that we are at that pivotal moment of we have to make a decision, and we have to give you, as our clients, our best advice on what we would do if we were in your situation. Now, what I want to say is that that doesn't mean to say this is the perfect thing to do, and in hindsight, in 6 months' time, that might not be the right advice. But what I can say is that I'm giving you our advice based on where we are today, based on what we don't really know is what is happening, to make sure that you are best prepared for Brexit as you possibly can be. And I think that's really, really important. So that's where we are. So what happens next? Do we have a deal? Do we not have a deal? I don't know. I'm sort of hoping that we're going to have a deal. Now, to me, it's really, really strange, because if we rewind to 31st of January this year, and before that, I think 3 times we went to the EU and said, oh, we're not quite ready, can we have an extension? So we went back and had an extension, and Europe were very kind to extend each time because they wanted to get it all resolved as much as we did. Now, it looks like we're not going to get something in place by the 1st of January, is my honest opinion. And I think if you read all the news, that's probably what you're going to hear from them as well. Now, there's a chance that the EU is going to come and say, look, we're not going to get this done by the 1st of January. Can we have an extension? Can we extend this? Now, at the moment, the UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is currently saying that they won't extend it. Now, I don't know whether that's a hard line to try and make sure we get a deal before the 1st of January, or just downright ignorance. I don't know which. So it's hard to know what that's going to be. I mean, it's typical British that, you know, we ask for the extension time and time again. Yet when they want an extension, it's, oh, no, you can't have it. So I think there's a bit of irony there. I'm hoping that what's going to happen is we might get an extension and they'll extend it from the 1st of January. Because with everything that's happened with COVID, we're just not ready. Like, the country is not ready. And, you know, I don't think economically the countries are ready. But either way, regardless, like, the 1st of January is the time that we've got to put something in place. And that's where we currently are. So they're currently looking at the trade negotiations, how we trade between us and Europe and the rest of the world. I mean, as it stands at the moment, there's no change in those regulations because we're in that transition period. But come the 1st of January, there will be. So what that means, as it stands today, if there's no deal and we revert to World Trade Organization terms, what that means is for every shipment that goes from the UK to Europe, do customs duty and customs VAT, import VAT, all right? So that's the reality of where we are today. So at the moment, when you ship your products into the EU, you'll have import VAT, you'll have customs duty that you'll pay coming into Europe as a whole, and the UK being part of that. Well, if it goes as it is as of today, what looks like might happen is you'll pay the customs, import duty and import VAT coming into the UK, and you'll also have to do that going into the EU, which is fine, like, that's fine. But if you wanted to send goods from the UK to Europe, you're going to have to pay import VAT and import duty again, which from a seller's point of view, you don't want to do. I mean, you're just increasing your cost unnecessarily when we know margins are tight. So it's really, really important that we try and avoid that. The other thing to say is that the European Fulfillment Network and the Pan-European Network will no longer include the UK. Amazon have come out and said that in the last 6 weeks, let's say. So if you are an Amazon seller, the UK won't be part of the European Fulfillment Network or the Pan-European Network because it's not in Europe. So there will be a difference. That will happen again. You know, it's going to be absolutely crucial. The two biggest markets for Amazon is the UK and Germany. You know, the UK and Germany account for 66% of all Amazon sales in Europe. So you need to be on both. Like, there's no getting away with that. A successful expansion includes Prime in both of those locations. You know, we've been saying for a long time now that as you expand, probably the best route is by expanding and being VAT registered in both the UK and Germany. And by being there, you've got 66% of the market share. I think that's really, really important to say, because going forwards, I think that's going to be even more relevant because, you know, the UK and Germany is a sizable chunk of sales in this part of the world. And you want to make sure that you can still capitalize on that. So, yeah, so it's going to be really, really, really key to see where that goes. All right, then. So what does it mean for you? I think there's two things you need to consider. You will have to be VAT registered in Europe. You will have to be VAT registered in the UK if you want to sell in both UK and Europe. That's a fact, all right? And, you know, whether that is no deal or a deal or whatever, that's where we are. And there is just no getting away from that. Where we stand today, you're going to have to be VAT registered in both. I mean, it's as simple as that. Obviously, we've tried putting that off for as long as we possibly can. We've been talking to sellers for the last 3 months that you probably need to register in Germany now, because Germany is probably the right market to do that in. The downside with Germany is it takes a little bit longer. And you need to get that done now. There's no holding back from this now. If you want to commit to selling in Europe successfully, one, you're going to need to register in Europe at some point. So it might as well be the market that's got the biggest market share of Amazon sales, in my honest opinion. So my number one takeaway for you today is to go away and make sure you're registered in both the UK and Germany. That is by far the number one thing you need to make happen, because Germany takes 3 to 4 months to register. Well, I mean, we're on the 22nd of September. I mean, that doesn't leave a lot of time for you to get registered and get compliant in Germany before Brexit. All right. There are some quicker options. Italy's only a few weeks. All right. But Italy's like 5–10%. It just blends into insignificance. There's no point being VAT registered because you can only get Prime in Italy. When you register in Germany, you can put your products in Germany, and therefore the advantage of that is that you're then going to get Prime in Germany as well. And I think that's really, really important for you guys to sort of start thinking about. So that's my number one thing for you to do. As of today, you need to start thinking, you need to register in another part of Europe. That's it. We don't want you to do that because it adds costs unnecessarily. But the reality is you need to do that. If you want help with that, of course, we can help with that. We'd love to help you with that. And I'll come on to that at the end. But that's what you need to do. Now, the second thing is you need to start thinking about is where you're going to warehouse your products in Europe. Now, if you're just an Amazon FBA seller and you just put your products into FBA, then you don't need to worry. Just put them into Amazon Germany if you're wherever you register in Europe. If you are a bigger seller and you want to bring in containers, then you need to seriously consider how you do that most effectively. Now, at the beginning of the call, we talked about me being in Netherlands. Well, the reason for being in Netherlands is we want to set up a new warehouse there where, you know, basically Netherlands is the gateway to Europe. All right. There's no getting away from that. It's the most central port. You can distribute to the whole of Europe from there really, really easily. And the best thing is you can apply for an Article 23 license, Now, what does an Article 23 license mean? It basically means you don't pay your import duty and import VAT when you come into the country, and it basically gets deferred. And I think that's really, really important to understand, because from a cash flow point of view, if you can not pay your import VAT and you can defer that to a later date, yes, you have to apply for it, but you can defer that to your VAT returns. That's really, really important. So if you are a seller that brings in containers, then, you know, you need to do that into the Netherlands. That is by far the best route. All of our biggest sellers do exactly that. All of the biggest retail distribution centers. You go to, if you have a look in Holland and just look at the number of warehouses in Holland. I mean, I saw this, I'll only touch on this briefly. I went past a Primark warehouse. Now, Primark here in the UK is a relatively big deal, and over in Europe is a big deal. I'm not so sure about the States, but basically it's sell it cheap, sell it fast, and sell lots of it, all right? Now, I mean, I've never seen a warehouse like it in my life. It must have been a mile long and 25, 30 meters high for internal racking. I mean, it was just vast. I've never seen anything like it. But why I bring that up is because what's happening is all the biggest players in the market are using Netherlands. So it's not like, oh, well, Netherlands seems a good idea. That's where to do it. It's the most economic. It's the most sensible. It's the one with the best access, and that's why we've gone for the Netherlands route. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand. If you're just going to do FBA, then just keep going into, you know, if you're going to register in Germany, send your goods to Germany. No problem. You don't need the Netherlands. But if you're a bigger seller, you're going to need that. All right. We have got a warehouse in Germany as well, so that's all sorted. So if you need a warehouse in Germany, we can do that. There's no dramas with that whatsoever. But really, Brexit has put us in a position where, you know, we've got to start making some decisions. Because if you as a seller today are only registered in the UK, then what's going to happen is come Brexit, you're only going to be able to sell in the UK. You will be able to sell to the rest of Europe, but there's going to be customs and duties and VAT and everything else that buyers are going to have to pay. And I don't think any of them will want to do that. Okay. When we see, let's say I come across, let's say I'm flicking through my phone, as we all have our tendency to do, and I then see an advert for something on my phone. Yeah. And I go to that advert and I click on that advert, and I go to the website and it takes me to a Shopify store. Right, I go to this store, I go, oh yeah, that looks great, I'll buy one of those. And it says dollars. As soon as I see that, I click off. And the reason for that is because I know that I'm gonna have to pay the import VAT and import duty when it comes to me and it's landed, all right? So Europe's gonna do exactly the same. They're gonna see pounds and they're gonna go, nah, I'm gonna have to, you know, whatever, I'm gonna have to pay for the duty and the customs. But you don't have to do that. So there's no need to do that. So you really need to think about what's best for your business and what you need to do. But my two things. One, you need to be VAT registered in Germany. You can get registered elsewhere, but in all honesty, it's the biggest market, and it's you know, it's the one we can offer the best price on at the moment as well. So that's where that's really going to help. All right. So I've covered what is Brexit. I've talked about how do we get here. I've talked about what's the latest, what's happening next, and what it means for you. And what you need to do is the most important part there. What you need to do is get VAT registered in another European country, I'm afraid. I really didn't want to have to talk to clients about having to do this. But unfortunately, I can do about it. We put this off as long as we possibly can. Now is the time for you to make sure you're taking that action, because you've taken the action to expand into Europe now, but unfortunately now we need to take another step. You know, you need to basically get to that next level. All right. And that's where we are. So let's open up for questions. I know I have gone bosh for 20 minutes, give or take. Hopefully you've got a whole load. Let's get the questions in. So if you've got any questions, then please fire away. Okay, Iori. Okay, great question. Okay, so there's a couple of things here for an EORI. An EORI, for those that don't understand, is a European registration number in a nutshell. What it means is it gives you the number to basically ship into Europe. Now, at the moment, you can still use that EORI number. You will need at some point especially when you do Germany, become VAT registered, we'll get you a Germany EORI number as well. Now, the downside to having a German EORI number is you need a German address as well. Now, fortunately, we can help you out with the German address. There's no dramas with that, and we can sort you out. But that's really, really important. I mean, that's another very good point, actually. One of the reasons we're not suggesting Germany for our warehouse, for the bigger sellers, is because shipping into Germany, quite honestly, is the biggest pain in the backside ever. All right. So that's one of the other reasons we've gone to Netherlands as a primary location. So you will need, you will potentially need a new EORI number, especially if you're VAT registered in Germany, and we can do that for you. It's not ideal, and you don't really want two EORI numbers, because your EORI number that you currently have is likely to be a GB EORI number. The likelihood is that is going to end up being your GB EORI number, and you'll need a European one, which we would do with you when we do your VAT registration in Germany. Hopefully that answers that, Habib. Anything else? Let's have some more questions coming in. Don't seem to have many questions, which means I've either given you all the information you need, or you're all on mute and I don't know which one that is. So please pump those questions in, because this is really, really important that you understand. Hopefully it would mean that I may have done it and given you the right information, of course. But you know, I want to make sure that you've got that information. So any further questions at all? Is Netherlands going to be part of the Pan-EU program? So the Pan-EU program, Netherlands, yes, it will be. What we don't know at the moment with the Pan-EU program, though, is that whether they're going to have a warehouse in the Netherlands yet. So with the Netherlands just being open, what happens is the Netherlands is opened and you can sell in the Netherlands marketplace. However, there's no warehouse there at the moment, but when you ship from Germany, you can still get Prime into the Netherlands. So that still works. So that's where it is. Netherlands, therefore, will be on the Pan-EU program by default. What we don't know about is Sweden at the moment. So Sweden, obviously, Sweden is sort of slightly, I'm on mute. I'm on mute, am I? You're on mute. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So maybe I can. Maybe you can't quite hear me, Habib. Sorry, but I'm not mute apparently. Everyone else can hear me. So I think the other thing here is the Sweden. You know, where does Sweden pitch itself here? You know, how that work with European Fulfillment Network and Pan-EU program. Well, I think we're yet to finalise that, but we're not quite sure yet. So I think that's really, we're open to negotiation with Amazon on that to find the final details. As soon as we hear something, we will let you know. So yes, it does offer seller fulfilled Prime in the Netherlands and Germany. Yes. Yeah, good question. Netherlands for us is really, really exciting. Germany is, we'll be able to offer Prime and everything else. Seller fulfilled Prime is really, really key. Is there likely to be another delay with COVID? Honestly, Chris, who knows? I think that what I know is history repeats itself. We know that happens. And I think that COVID may delay this, although the government's saying that it won't at the moment. I think from an Amazon point of view, and I'm going slightly off topic, that delaying goods getting into Amazon is definitely possible. And they may even shut Amazon warehouses again. So you need to consider that. But will there be a delay because of COVID? In all honesty, I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no. I would like to think that the sensible thing to do, given COVID, would be to extend the deadline. But I'm not a politician. I'm not a decision maker. And they definitely won't listen to me, I'm afraid. So there we go. So what's the easiest country to import to outside of Netherlands? Needs to be a country where Amazon have a warehouse. So what's the easiest country to import to outside? See, I struggle with this, right? Netherlands is the easiest. All the others you have to pay import, VAT and everything else. Germany's a pain in the backside. Outside of that, possibly France. France is a bit prickly. And as we get towards Brexit, some of them are going to get even more prickly. You know, to be fair, the ones that typically will be better will probably be Italy and Spain. They're going to be the ones that are most likely to be the easiest. But there's no guarantee of that. And if you do, you've then got to be registered for VAT in those countries as well.
He's in the UK.
What's he saying?
Well, it's about.
Oh, I just hear someone there. I've just muted whoever that was. Apologies. Everyone should be muted. If you've got any questions, then just fire them into the box. Okay. Hopefully I answered that, Jacob. Christine, how do you recommend I prepare my inventory ahead of Brexit? I mean, that's a great question. So how do you prepare that inventory? Okay, so I think that what Amazon is currently trying to get you to do, if you're an Amazon seller, which I'm presuming you are, and I think you are, then what they're doing is getting you to put some inventory over into Europe to make sure that is done. If you are not registered in Europe yet, you need to be registered there first before you put that information, before you put that stock over there. Now, if all your goods are here now, then actually, and you don't think you're going to send any more, then what you can do is you could do a removal order from Amazon. You could send them to our warehouse and we could ship them over to one of our warehouses or FBA, whatever works best for you. So that would be how I do that. Going forwards, the best way to do that is by having 2 shipments. Now, you have 2 shipments leaving your manufacturing going to 2 locations, one into the UK, one into Europe. Now, how that's obviously going to increase your costs. So there are some considerations around that for you. If you are shipping in less than container loads, then it won't make much difference because, you know, let's say you were shipping 2 pallets to the UK, we'll send one to the UK and one to Europe. There's not going to be much cost difference. Where the sellers that will find the biggest difference are those that had a container, when they're only sending 1 container, they've now got to decide, do they ship 2 20-footers, one to Europe, one to the UK, or do they ship it all to one location and split it? That's where you're going to come across the differences. Now, there is something that's likely to come out, something called a free port, which may happen in the near future. A free port is basically something where the goods can come in, but they don't actually leave the port. So you could, let's say you had a container with 20 pallets on it, right? You could take 10 off here, shut the doors, and then send the rest over there and not have to pay 2 lots of customs. Now, they're currently in negotiation about how they do that and what they do with that, but there is a possibility that's going to happen. But that's certainly not going to happen by the 1st of January. So that's not going to happen at the moment. So hopefully that helps with how that helps with the inventory. I know that doesn't give you necessarily any numbers. Can I apply for a second EORI number now? Yes, you can, but you need to be VAT registered in that country first. So you need to be VAT registered in that country before you get an EORI number, and that's what you need to make sure that you're doing in order to make sure you comply with the regulations. We can get a Germany one relatively straightforward and easy for you. We can sort that out if you're already Germany registered. I mean, we do that in the other countries. We would recommend that you probably do Germany is what we would recommend at the moment. Okay, so I think that's answered all those questions come through so far. Any more questions, please pop those in. Let's see if we can answer any of those further questions. Because if you've got questions, then please carry on firing them in. There's no problem with that. Okay, another question coming. So, EU is less than 5% of my GB sales. I don't know why. Would you do this? Okay, so the reason that the EU is less than 5% is 5% of your GB sales probably is because there's probably something not working within your Seller Central. Now, there's a couple of different things there. One, are your European sales ticked on? Have you translated your products? Have you got keywords translated? Are the pictures relevant to the European market? Have you got products in different countries? So there's a whole load of things you could do in order to increase your sales. What I see from data, and we see, we've got thousands of clients. I've got access to thousands of data that I can put into some broad terms so you can give you an idea. The UK and Germany is broadly a third and a third. The UK is bigger for some sellers, and Germany's bigger for some sellers. But broadly, on average, it's a third and a third. The rest of Europe is a third. So your sales should work into 3/3. A third from the UK, a third from Germany, and a third from the rest of the countries. Now that won't be perfect for every seller, and there will be some differences. All right, there will be some different species that come out, but that is roughly what you should expect. So if it's 5%, there's something not quite working with your seller account where you need to basically make some tweaks. All right. If you want some help from that, we'd love to help you. In that case, I would say, is it worth registering if you're still 5%? No, possibly not. But I would say that you're missing a massive opportunity to double your amount of sales, triple your amount of sales, in effect, because if you've got a third of the UK, you're missing 2/3 of an opportunity. All right. And that's where you should be going. So hopefully that's answered that. If it hasn't, then please follow up with a further question. Another one, if I leave it too late for registration in Germany, shouldn't I just apply for VAT and EORI in Italy as it will be quicker? Surely there's no benefit for waiting for the EORI if I'm going on to Pan EU. Okay, so great question. So the first thing is, if I leave it late for registering in Germany, should I just apply for? Yes, you could apply in Italy. If you're going to be going on to Germany on the Pan EU program at a later date, once you've triggered the Pan EU program, you need to register in every country. All right. Now, that increase your cost significantly, unnecessarily, potentially. All right. So yes, you could register in Italy, but the downside being that you can only then put your products in Italy, which means you only get Prime in Italy, which I personally think is missing a massive chunk. The costs are practically the same for each country. So I would suggest it takes a bit longer for Germany, but if you do it today, at least you're going to be ready and you're going to have a much bigger opportunity to sell into Germany rather than Italy. That would be my gut feel. Sure, there's no benefit of waiting for Germany or if you're going, yeah, I think I just answered that. So yeah, maybe not. But if you're going to go onto the Pan EU program, then I would just go on for all of it and just get on with it. But you don't necessarily need to be on the Pan EU program straight away. Sellers we see go onto the Pan EU sometimes go on it too early, which means they're just paying extra costs they don't need to. You want to launch on, basically, typically how we say to work is, look, you're selling in the UK. When you meet the threshold, then register in that country. When you've met the threshold of the next country, then register in that country. If you do all of them, you could be registering in all those countries unnecessarily, meaning you're increasing your costs. I would love to do all the VAT for you in all the countries. I'd love to, but not unless you really need to, because it's when you need to do that is important. All right. Okay, hopefully that answers that. So I'm going to move on, but please carry on asking the questions. Please keep filing those in. Now, if you do want support and you do want help and you do want to register in Germany, then basically all you need to do is contact your account manager saying, I've spoken to Andy or seen Andy's webinar or whatever, and I want to register in Germany. Please, can you help me with this? And the team will basically get on with it and deal with it for you. Now, obviously, we've already got a lot of paperwork from you safely secured on our servers that we might already have. We might already have your passport, your driving licenses, whatever that might be. So we might not need very many documents from you to make that happen. So we can do that really, really easily. So contact support@globalecomexperts.com or your account manager. We do have a special offer for Germany at the moment, and your account manager will be able to give you that to you. So normally it's £2,100, but we're actually going to be able to do that for £1,600 at the moment. So there's a massive saving, and that includes doing the registration for you. So before it was 2,100 plus 350, as well as now we were able to do that for 1,600. So make sure you go ahead with that and get that sorted. Do you know what happens if I'm on the Pan EU but shipping to the UK and don't split my inventory by the end of the year? Amazon will split your inventory for you. So if you're on the Pan EU program, Amazon's basically going to distribute it for you so that you're safe. You won't need to worry. All right. So that should work really, really well. So hopefully that's answered all your questions. Please carry on. I'm going to stay on for any further questions. But really, my suggestions to you today are: 1, you need to register in Germany. 2, if you're a bigger seller, you need to basically start shipping your products into the Netherlands, because it's much better for cash flow, it's much better for ease of use, and there are some other significant benefits of that, which we can discuss with you rather than going through them all now. That's it from me. Hopefully that's been super useful. I'm sorry I couldn't come with you and say, hey, you don't need to register anywhere else. You don't need to. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that. We have put this off as long as we possibly can, but now you have to take action. And this isn't a sales thing. You know, take action. You know, one of these big gurus saying, take action, now's the time, and all the rest of it. Brexit's coming. Like, there's no getting away from that. Brexit's coming on the 1st of January. You need to be registered for VAT in a country in Europe outside of the UK. It's fact, all right? We'd love to help you with that. You know, we're already working with you. We're already supporting you. So let's basically make sure we can do that and make that as swift and as easy as possible as we can for you. Hopefully that's been useful. I know your time's precious and valuable, so thank you very much. If you've got any further questions, I'm going to stay on for another minute. But outside of that, we're good to go. I wish you all an amazing day. Stay safe, look after your loved ones in this crazy, crazy world we're in right now. And I wish you all an amazing day. Thank you.